All right, everybody, and welcome back to Progressives Abroad. As usual, we're here to serve up fresh progressive perspectives from around the globe. Recording live here from Oslo, Norway, I'm your host, and I hope everybody is finding themselves at home or somewhere safe, and ideally, social distancing if at all possible. We're here now on day 11 here in Norway on a nationwide effort to shut down most of the country in terms of business and events. And in the spirit of social distancing, today we thought it would be a great opportunity to have our first roundtable discussion during the national lockdown. We're going to be speaking to some fellow progressives abroad, locals, good friends of the show from right here in Norway. We're going to be talking about things like the government and healthcare system's reaction to a tidal wave of sick and unemployed people. What's the situation in Italy and the rest of Europe? What about Trump? What about Biden? What about your side hustle and what are you doing to keep busy? Man, we got it all on today's show. We're going to be speaking with some nice people today. I'm going to be speaking with Shane. He's a marine biologist and bike mechanic from Ireland. Johnny, he is a comedian from California, USA. Matt, an educator from the Wales in the UK. Shafiq, professional climber from London. And of course, our resident Norwegian, Becca, from right here in Oslo. And on a side note, Becca is running an online yoga courses that can be done from the comfort of your own home. Great way to keep yourself active while staying socially distant. And this, of course, can be viewed worldwide, streamed live on Facebook Live by searching for Live Yoga from Oslo. And I will leave a link for that in the below description. Now, please bear with us. This is our first of many upcoming roundtable discussions. And there were a few technical difficulties, hence why there's no video on this one. And if you're listening, that doesn't even matter, even better. Also, to give you a little bit of context, this was recorded about 4 days ago. So, of course, world events have progressed since then. But this is just a nice little window into what life is like at this historic period in Oslo. So, enough with the jibber jabber. Let's get on with the show. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy our roundtable discussion live from the Corona Zone. It's big times. Of course, I'm your host from United States, and let's go around the round table real quick and just find out who else is here. We'll start with this. We have a couple people with beards here, so we'll go with Shane. We've got Shane all the way from Ireland. How you doing today, Shane?
All right. Yeah, been living in Oslo since 2011. This is the first quarantine I've had.
Nice. All right, so we got Shane is a bike mechanic and marine biologist from Ireland. Coming around next, we've got Matt. Matt, all the way from Wales. How you doing today, Matt?
All right, mate. Not too bad. Also, my first time in quarantine.
Yeah.
Been about 2 years. I hope it's the last quarantine.
What are you up to here in Oslo these days?
I can say I was working in a souvenir shop and I was teaching. I've just been made redundant from both thanks to this coronavirus thing. I got an email just tonight saying also my classes have been cancelled. So.
Oh shit. Yep. Yeah, it seems like the classic story. We'll get deeper into this later. Okay, moving up next. Thanks for coming on the show. This man, Mr. Shafiq. Where you from?
Yeah.
What you doing around here?
Yeah, man. Londoner, born and bred. Been living here in Oslo 3 years. Just holding it out, living right next to a forest. So I get to enjoy the forest during this crazy quarantine time.
Enjoying the crazy quarantine time.
I teach rock climbing. I live on top of a climbing gym, which is now closed, so I can't climb there right now. But it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I think we all met quite a long time ago. That leads us into our next guest coming over around the corner. You all know her from You Only Live Once. Everybody give it up for Becca. How you doing today, Becca?
Hey, everybody.
Becca is our resident Norwegian person. As you probably can figure out already, we all live here in Oslo. Just to let the audience out there know, we all live here in Oslo. and for different bouts of time. But it's a very international city too. But Becca, she's our local Norwegian correspondent, so you'll be giving us that good old homegrown perspective. But Becca's also lived in a lot of other places around the world and has a very diverse background. So it's going to be interesting. And coming up next, last but not least, all the way from California, everybody give it up for Johnny.
Woo!
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, been here for a couple years on and off, trying to get my residency. I haven't been able to work anyway since I've been here, so now I feel like everyone's more in a situation similar to my daily life of not working and staying at home all day.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so that's a good point. So let's start it off from there. So what is going on, everybody? Like, how is it? How is this quarantine life? Like, let's explain it to the people out there who might be living different lives right now, or maybe similar lives. Like, what's quarantine life like? Johnny, you said that it's similar to your life. So what does that mean?
Well, I'm here in Oslo because I have a daughter, knocked up a Norwegian girl. Classic reason to move to Norway from the experience I've had meeting other expats. Yeah, my daily life has been just staying at home, and because I have a kid and not being able to socialize that much anyways. But for me, it's kind of been nice. I feel like everything's slowed down, and the people who I do see that are out are, it seems like the little panic has shifted, at least here in Oslo. I know it's a little more aggressive in other places, but in Oslo, it seems pretty, tame for the time being. And I think, as long as this doesn't get too bad, hopefully this period of being stuck at home will, help people see what they actually need in their lives and what they don't actually need. So I'm still just trying to focus on the positive aspects of it, and then just staying away from people, which, just say hi when I walk by, and that's about all I can do. So, I like it.
When you see in general, in Norway, Norwegian society, like on a general basis, people are kind of, I would say, keeping a social distance from each other normally anyways. Of course, people like to go out on the weekends, have a good time, and like hang out with their friends and stuff like that. But in general, it is like a very cozy kind of place, a place where people are kind of staying inside when they're not going outside. So I don't know. In this case, maybe things haven't changed so much. On the other side, I feel like I've seen people going out a lot more because everybody's got time off now. So there's a lot of people out during the day. I'm kind of surprised about this. What's up with that?
Yeah, tons of people in the forest right now. We just went there for a walk, and yeah, there are people, but me and Becca, we saw the funniest thing today. We were just, as we were leaving the forest, we saw like a group of 4 people having a conversation, but they were all standing in a massive like quad. And just, it was just a bit weird situation. It's like, what's going on here? Okay, they're just doing the real deal and just having that distancing of a meter or 2 between each other. So
kind of surreal, isn't it?
Yeah, really surreal.
I bumped into some friends the other day, and it was a similar kind of deal where we sort of had this silent agreement that we should all sort of stand very far apart from each other. And we sort of like kicked feet as a greeting instead of handshaking or whatever, or a hug. And it was, all pretty strange, really.
Yeah, my favorite one is the hands on the heart one. That's
yeah. I've also had a namaste. A friend came up, she was all namaste.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because right now I'm just looking at the statistics, right? And when it comes to the statistics, I'm getting these from the Worldometer. Norway finds itself in the very precarious position of being number 4 in the world per capita for coronavirus infections. So how do you think we're doing a good job in Norway actually at, the whole social distancing thing and containing this?
I think that,
you go.
I think that those statistics that are coming out are hard to trust, because there are a lot of people who are not being tested.
Mm-hmm.
And just like something that's been debated here the last couple of days is that a lot of people have the virus probably, but do not have a lot of symptoms. And I think if this is happening here, this is also happening in other places in the world. I think when I look at the statistics, what I look at is, you know, the number that has people in hospitals versus the number of people who have passed away. I don't know, I think it's obviously important to stay on it and pay attention to what's going on. At the same time, I think it is very hard to know exactly what these number means, because it's also still very early. And I do think that in other countries, just like in Norway, there are a lot of people who are not being tested, and it's very hard to know at this point, I think. So I think what the numbers really mean are going to become more clear in a few weeks when you have something to relate the statistics to. Yeah.
Yeah, they've stopped testing a lot of people, haven't they? So there's really no idea. We really have no idea how many people are affected at this stage, I guess. So it makes sense that you're looking at the people who are seriously, people who are in hospital and stuff. And
do you guys heard about the new measure that anyone who's under 60 and is like really badly ill or has to go to hospital, like, you know, will be treated? Anyone who's over 60 and they don't show like a likelihood that they're going to be getting better after 3 months, they're not going to be putting an emphasis on those people.
wow,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, figures.
Here in Norway, I just the last thing I saw in our course. So
Really?
yeah. Because we have such limited resources here in Norway, so just they're trying to like, okay, who is, it's not a nice thing to say, but who's actually profitable, who's actually gonna live out of this situation, the 60-year-old here or the 90-year-old there. But then again, you know, you got people who are really old and are super fit, and younger people in the 60s who are on the opposite. So yeah, that's pretty wild.
Wow, yeah, I haven't heard that. That is pretty wild.
Yeah.
But they have to triage in some way. Like they have to draw a line somewhere. There's not beds and ventilators for everybody that gets really sick. So I guess they have to draw a line somewhere, or they have to make a plan, or it's just going to get out of control.
Yeah, and I think they're also doing it so that the doctors, because the doctors are put in a very difficult situation when they have to make an ethical choice. So instead of putting that responsibility on the doctors and the nurses and all the people who are working in the hospitals who are already in a very difficult situation, they're just drawing the line, like you're saying, Shane, somewhere. And also, I think the statistics from Italy shows that most of the people who have passed away from this virus have 1, 2, or 3 other illnesses, and they are all mostly above 80 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So so that's interesting though. So there's like a big stress on the healthcare system. I mean, I know none of us are like experts on this, but I mean, one thing, for example, I don't know if anybody heard this, but I was watching the debate the other night between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden over there in the United States. And one thing that how does it, I'm gonna just paraphrase what he said right now, but of course we all know Bernie Sanders is arguing for Medicare for all, universal socialized medicine, whatever you want to call it, like what we have here in Norway. And Joe Biden said, yeah, but you see what happening in Italy right now, like people are dying and they're like refusing people for healthcare because they're too old. Like this is why a universal healthcare system doesn't work.
wow.
What do you think about that? And he's winning right now.
I think it's just using shock appeal to sort of reach his audience, I guess. I mean, it's obviously not, if you had it privatized, it'd obviously be much worse, wouldn't it? All the people without money would be just dying anyway. I mean,
Yeah, I think that is just like a misinterpretation of the situation. That's what I think. I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, you have to have healthcare to give it to people, but no matter where you ever live, I mean, it's a fantasy in America that we have like unlimited resources, and that shows, I think, like, oh yeah, unlimited gasoline, unlimited, like, plastic, like unlimited this and that, and of course, when we have universal healthcare, it's gonna be unlimited too, and like, this is probably why this shit doesn't pass in the United States, because people think it's just, they're gonna, like, the sky's the limit, oh yeah, if we get healthcare, then people are just gonna be like unlimitedly using it, and unlimited
You mean like
band-aids for everyone, like, this is not what it is.
all you can eat healthcare buffet? Is that what people are worried about being like too healthy? I don't understand.
No, it's just, but yeah, I was pretty irritated when he went for that kind of like low blow. I thought, like, I mean, let's be real. I mean, yeah, Italy is a place, they have a healthcare system, kind of similar to here. I'm sure like there's some differences, of course. I mean, I've been to the doctor there before. It's definitely different than going to the doctor here. But I mean, overall,
I mean, it's meant to be one of the best healthcare systems in the world, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it's like #2 in the world or something like that. I think
especially
there's
with
an older demographic as well, isn't there? So there's more old people, perhaps, or they've got an aging population or something too.
Yeah,
yeah,
they have the oldest population in Europe. And I think, if this would have happened in any other European country, it would have had a similar,
Yeah.
start, because nobody could know how all this would develop. And if it would have happened in the UK or in Finland or, in Canada, I think it would have had a very similar start regardless. Like any system would have been shocked by how infectious this virus is. But I think what's more interesting is just, what is it that we choose to focus on in debates, and what is it that we choose to spend our time on discussing. And I think it's a shame that, in an election campaign, like, that is what he chooses to say. I think one of the most important things in times like these is that whether you're a politician in government or not, it's very important that, there is collaboration across parties, and there is a willingness to deal with it, as professionally as possible, because isn't that the whole point of being a politician? To be of service for the community, for the people.
That sounds like a very nice idea. I really like that idea. I wish you could bring that idea over to the United States, where pretty much all of our politicians are funded by fucking Walmart and like oil companies and shit like that. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean that's true. And of course that works. I think that idea would be wonderful in the United States. We have kind of a strange political system where we really have this two-party system. Right here you have like the parliamentary system, so you have these much like smaller factions that kind of have to collaborate together to actually make some stuff happen. But I mean, let's be real, you're over here in Norway. I mean, right now that, if you look over to a place like United States, and I mean, I don't want to drag us in there too far, but if you look at a place like United States, they're really like caught with their pants down right now. They're really like, oh God, what are we gonna do? Like, oh my God, how are we gonna? And I mean, it's like too late now. They sound like they're getting some stuff together. They're trying to like mail checks to people and make sure people get tests and stuff like that. But it's still in the process. And meanwhile, every day, hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people getting affected. And it's just kind of funny because there's this very like anti, like let's call it socialist, democratic socialist, whatever you want to call it, perspective going on in general in America. It's just a scary word, and healthcare for everybody's here. But as you see, once disaster strikes, everybody's demanding socialism. Where's the government gonna send us a check? All this kind of stuff. So all this is crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so that's a good question to kind of direct us in a little bit back to where we are at. Like, how do you all feel like the Norwegian Norway is handling the situation, or maybe Europe too in general.
Personally, I'm a bit worried. I don't think. I mean, a lot of us have gone into isolation, but I don't think everyone is doing it. And looking at what's happened in Italy and Spain and obviously China before that, we can see that it's spreading between people who aren't showing symptoms. And really, I think we should all just sort of shut things down as soon as possible until we've, to slow it down basically. Otherwise, we'll end up just like Spain and Italy have, and it's going to get messy.
So you think that we haven't closed down enough at this point here in Norway?
That's what I think, based on the situations in Spain and Italy, where they're literally telling people not to go out at all. I mean, nobody wants that. It doesn't sound like fun, but there must be a good reason why they're doing it. And I think if we keep messing about with it and being really laid back in our approach, the same thing is going to happen in Norway and also in the UK, where I'm from, where they've got a really lax approach, and the government's not even shutting the pubs or the bars, the restaurants. They're telling people not to go. Yeah. But they're not obliging them to shut.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of maybe a little more stringent here, but still, it seems like, I mean, you can still, like, I think bars, most of the places are closed, but like, for example, you can still go to the bakery, you can.
But there's a lot of bars open too. Like
It's kind of
any of the
confusing.
bars, nobody's forcing them to close, but it's like a recommendation. But there's definitely a good few bars still open, and restaurants, and a lot of them are super busy too. So it's maybe they should step up on that. I get that people want to kind of try and keep their businesses alive, but it's not worth it if everyone's just going to get sick as a result. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess
further on down the line.
Yeah, I think it doesn't make sense to. I think it's like if you do it, if you have a kind of a system in place to slow down the process, you have to do it properly. You can't do it like a little bit and then kind of not, because then it has no effect. So I'm hoping that when we get to March 26th, which is like the date that this lasts for, it's gonna become a little bit more strict. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see like the different like regions of the world react to this, because I mean, it's like, okay, if you look over at like China, okay, China was like where it first, went down, like this is where, it all started. And, there things got like very authoritarian, and like they really have like maintained it, but they had to really like come down hard on the people, like locking up whole cities and, building hospitals overnight to make sure, people are getting taken care of. So they've really, I think today they actually reported no new cases of coronavirus. And then you look at Europe, which is like, I think trying, but in kind of this like wishy-washy way where it's like, yeah, we're going to do all these shutdowns. And like, but I mean, there's not like, in Korea, like the reason why Korea was so successful is because not only were they testing people, but they were also tracking people. And I feel like over here in the West, like people are just gonna have like a big problem with that if you start tracking people by their credit cards and stuff like this, or this, but that's how they've been so successful. Here we're kind of wishy-washy. They're like, okay, everybody, just stay home, collect your unemployment payment, just stay home, and then over in the United States, people are just freaking out because like everybody's demanding tests, but like they don't know what to do with the test because they're not going to track people. And at the same time, it's like really hard for people to get like unemployment pay and all this kind of stuff. So it's just like fucking chaos,
I think part of the problem too is, there's so much. So we're not being forced to stay home. We're not being forced to do this and that, which is kind of a good thing in some ways. It's nice to sort of have at least the illusion that there's some kind of freedom there, that you can do you know what I mean? We're not being forced into these situations. It's not all authoritarian, but at the same time, people need the right information. People need to know why they have to stay home. People need to know why it's a good idea, or they're not going to do it. And I think that's why we're seeing so many people out and about doing their thing. And there's so much misinformation as well. You know, people don't know if maybe you're only contagious for a couple of days, or that type of thing. So people think it's pointless to stay home if you're not showing symptoms, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty pleased, like, at least in like the default system that we have here. Like, okay, like it's definitely easier to get people to chill out and not panic so hard if you do have like a legit like social safety net in place, you know? But at the same time, I feel like people are just taking it a little too easy. I mean, if I look at what's
Oh yeah,
happened,
tons of people going to the cabins and not really coming back, and so the government has introduced this 15,000 crown fine if you're caught or go to jail. To be honest, you'd probably be better off going to jail. Yeah, it's really nice.
I think that you know, obviously on the surface, and I'm disappointed that Norway isn't more strict on what's open and what's closed, as opposed to a lot of other countries or, you know, cities in the US that are shutting down and doing the shelter in place approach. But I've had the thought a few times that I feel like part of the way that Norway could be presenting it is easing people in for something that's going to be longer and more serious. You know, I imagine like everything besides grocery stores and pharmacies will shut down. It would make sense for them to want to instill a curfew. But if they started with that stuff from the very beginning right away and said, oh, we're shutting down the schools for 3 months as opposed to 2 weeks, then you're not giving people this time to like transition into this potential of what their lives could be like. So I feel like part of it is a, you know, group populist sort of technique to keep panic down and get people to actually like not rebel against whatever new regulations and policies are going to be putting into place to counteract this.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Actually, it's a really good point. I mean, there's like, you know, there's like systems in place that kind of make it easier to implement these like soft restrictions, you know, at first. But I mean, and not to stir up like too much conspiracy, because it's just like pure conspiracy. But I mean, sometimes I do wonder, like, yeah, what are, because there is a lot of serious action being taken, you know, like this is, I mean, all of these like shutdown of all the borders. I mean, this is unprecedented. This hasn't been seen in our lives. This hasn't been seen in like our parents' lives and probably our grandparents' lives. It's like the craziest thing since maybe like World War II, like where like the whole world is kind of coordinating, you know. And it does make me wonder if there's even more, what's going on might be even more crazy than we really, you know, are being told. You know what I mean? Like maybe they obviously know stuff about they like the governments, they know information about the full scale of this disaster that maybe we don't know. Maybe we're not even here. So maybe we're being prepared for something different. I don't want to get too conspiratorial.
I don't think it's a very conspiracy sort of perspective to have that a bit. It's just a reality that governments have to face is, you know, keeping their population, you know, cooperating. Because if people are, you know, everyone has to like agree to the, you know, social contract that's in place within a certain country or city.
Mm-hmm.
And if
I mean,
no one's following it, then what good is the government?
Yeah, they were talking in the UK like about the whole gentle approach, so to speak, in the beginning, where they weren't banning any of these things, and they were. I don't remember what the exact plan was, but the point was they were trying to. Apparently, they were basing it on behavioral science. So it's kind of like what you're saying, you know, like what are people going to be willing to do? What measures are people going to be willing to take? Maybe if we tell them this, they're not going to listen. They're not going to do it. Whereas if we sort of, yeah, depending on what you say to your people, they'll listen or they won't listen.
Yeah, and I don't know. I would say I don't know. Probably the UK is quite different than Norway. I would say almost maybe leans a bit more in the direction of the US culturally speaking. Because I mean here it I feel like here it's like rather there's a lot of homogeneity going on. So it's like the government's just like, okay, guys, come on, like just stay home for 2 weeks. Yeah, you do this every year anyways. Come on, you have vacation every year and stuff like that. You know what to do when you have like idle hands. So just collect some unemployment pay and just chill out for a couple weeks. And I think people are doing all right, but at the same time, I think that I see a lot of people out maybe not taking it so seriously. Maybe
Well, I mean, when I was out, yeah,
not
like I say, when I was out the other day, just walking to the shop, there were loads of people in parks and loads of people with their friends going running or playing basketball, even in one place.
That being said, though, have you seen? I don't know if you've seen any of these photos from the States of like people going to the beach in Florida, and
Mad.
they're just like, hey, everybody, like the beach is closed. Fuck it. Everybody's just swarming to the beach. It was fucking St. Patrick's Day last weekend, or well, no, it's like in the middle of the week, right? Or yeah, it was like 2 days ago, but last weekend everybody was having St. Patrick's Day parties, just like swarms of people going to the bars and like slopping all over each other and stuff like that. And it's just like, man, it's like watching a train wreck,
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I got a few other questions for you guys for the panel here. I don't know if anybody's getting tired. Feel free to leave whenever you want, but I appreciate you being here because it's so nice to see all of your lovely faces while we're in quarantine. Okay, so here's a bit of a news brief. So today, Donald Trump.
That guy.
Donald Trump is like been spreading this thing now, and I was hoping it wasn't going to go this way, but now it's going this way, where he's not calling it the coronavirus anymore. He's calling it the Chinese virus.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. But so my question is, okay, of course, I think we all agree this is fucking terrible. But have you like heard anything, not just in Norway, but like from your people back home, friends, family, or like in Norway, have you heard anybody else repeating some kind of rhetoric like this, of the kind of like more discriminatory, like weaponizing the coronavirus as something more like this? Anybody heard anything like that?
Just in the U.S. that, and I've heard it myself in the White House press conferences. It's a war. It's a war. It's a war. It's always this. Now it's this war. And 5 days ago with Trump, it was, wasn't a war. And so now it's just, it's interesting to hear that. And obviously, there's like a political reason why he keeps saying that. So he can make some crazy executive orders for $1 trillion bailout. Just like, oh my God.
No doubt.
This is insane. Yeah.
Such a crazy number.
But I don't know. This is something I worry about. Is this? I was I was expecting that to start, and there's also these reports now of like people in like California, like just visually. Let's say, I don't know what the right way, visually Asian people, people that look Asian, although they might be from the United States, getting attacked on like buses in San Francisco, I believe, and stuff like this. And so it's already starting to get out of hand, which makes no fucking sense.
Have you watched any news from the US like recently? Like the music that they use, it's just like pandemic, coronavirus, and it's like these crazy like drums like going on the sides, and just sounds like an epic, battle between like the Greeks and the Persians and some crazy stuff. It's just
We should
just
get some
sounds
music like that
so
on
crazy, so intense. And here it's like, pretty calm when you hear messages from anybody on news. So I feel like that's always playing a factor there. There's no toilet paper. There's line at gun stores. It's stressful for people there.
No toilet paper. Yeah, what's up with the toilet? Is anybody else like really like afraid about toilet paper? I'm not afraid about toilet paper.
Yeah.
But
Shit's well supplied there.
U.S. diet is a scary thing, man. Toilet paper is going to war.
like, well, you know, in America we love wars, right? We love the war on drugs, the war on cancer, like the culture war, the war on the war on toilet bowls,
Always
the war on coronavirus.
We're always at war, man. We're just always at war.
Yeah, well, somebody said that the other day. I think it was like back in the 80s or something. I was listening to some other podcast, and it was back in the 80s. They were talking about, there was a lot of talk about the war on cancer, and like this was to like get people to stop smoking cigarettes, and like apparently the war on cancer was like very successful. You know, so people in America love war. They love going to war on things.
Love slogans. Good slogan.
Mm-hmm.
Do a lot in the U.S.
I think one of the disadvantages of that is that when that kind of rhetoric is used, people are becoming afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily a sense of community that is triggered. It's kind of you are sort of like I don't know what the English expression is, but yourself to your own or something. And I think if there's any time where anyone that is speaking publicly should think about what they're saying, it's definitely now.
Yeah. Did you catch Angela Merkel's speech? Hers was super on point and just really comforting, and you know, kind of how someone in power should be laying it down. Really, definitely recommend you watch it.
Okay, can you give us a brief summary in your best Angela Merkel voice?
Just kind of just being realistic. Yeah, shit's gonna hit the fan right now, and we need to just make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and keeping distancing, and resources are slim, so there's going to be a lot of trouble ahead. But just the way she put it out is just like, you know, nice, concrete, simple to understand, but also very endearing and very empowering at the same time. Yeah.
Nice.
I recommend
have you been in touch with any people from Deutschland? Because we know you have some connections down in Deutschland.
I haven't, but Becker, you might be.
Yeah, I talked to some people yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm in touch with people in different places, actually. Some people in Tanzania, Brazil, and Finland.
Mm-hmm.
London.
Yeah.
But I talked to a few people yesterday on Skype or Messenger.
Have you all noticed anything surprising or different since this whole thing started? I mean, coronavirus, of course, started all the way back in China in December, but it seems like it's really hit where we live in Europe, like in the past couple of weeks. So have you noticed any things different happening, like in the community? Anything surprising things?
People slowing down.
I mean,
yeah, people talking to each other more, people just connecting in different ways, and their old idea of what normal is kind of being challenged right now, and I think it's a really positive thing.
Yeah.
Maybe people are more sort of willing to look out for each other, I guess. You know, there's loads of people saying, oh, if you need anything, I mean, admittedly, it's Facebook posts. Facebook posts could mean anything, but, you know, people posting things saying, you know, I'm here if anyone needs me to go to the shop for them, anyone who's in quarantine or whatever, or if anyone needs anything, because people have panic bought all the toilet roll or food, I've got supplies, you know, so that's quite nice.
I feel like people are using social media in a way that we could have done, you know, for a long time.
Yes.
But actually, you know, social media can be used for many things, but right now it's quite useful, and it's being used for people to actually connect, to actually create communities, to make sure that people are okay, to do conversations like we are doing right now. And that's quite nice, I think.
Yeah, it's awesome. To add to that, like I've been pretty amazed. Like not only like it was like I can see it in myself, like in like all of us, like us friends, kind of like reaching out to each other, like in different ways. Like instead of just texting, now we've like been doing like some, after things got settled, doing some more like video conferencing and stuff like that. I have people walking by the door that are kind of in the neighborhood, calling up on the phone and saying, hey, come out the window, to like wave and say hi and stuff like that. And also what I think is pretty incredible and is there's a lot more community events being kind of transferred online. We've had some concerts in the past week. There's like whole Facebook groups and like online communities, like people, it almost seems like doing live concerts and like shows like around the clock, people just sitting in their bedrooms, playing music and stuff like this. So this is really amazing. We can do a plug for Becca. Even you are doing like yoga online for everybody, and I can drop the link for that if anybody wants to check that out. Anybody else finding some interesting ways to like occupy their time in this time of unemployment and social distancing? What you been doing?
I have a friend in Berlin who is a dancer, and obviously it's going to be a long time before we can go to any kind of class again, although there are online classes. So we have to keep practicing, we are sending each other videos where we improvise, where you can watch the video and then you can have, what's the word I'm looking for? A response to that.
Feedback.
So it triggers your own creativity. And I've seen a lot of initiatives like that. Everything from a daily bedtime story to poetry, sort of chapters being written by different people. So I think people are getting a lot of ideas, and there's also a lot of cultural institutions in Norway and also in other countries that are offering additional funding to support artists, which I think is really wonderful. So there's a lot going on, I would say.
Yeah, it's wild actually. I feel like there's this whole new kind of other than there's a lot of existential thinking going on right now, and I think a lot of people kind of putting things into perspective and all this kinds of. There's also this kind of new kind of like community opening up, like people actually like, I think people are feeling like, oh, I'm all alone all the time, so I got to reach out in another way, and it's actually, I mean, don't want to diminish the fact that there's lots of people suffering right now from this whole thing, and hopefully none of us or anybody we know fall into that case, and maybe some have already, I don't know, but I mean, there's going to be, I think, also some kind of earth-shaking kind of changing of paradigm shifts for a lot of, I hope, for a lot of people, and also how we use things, how we consume things, like, all this kind of stuff as I don't know. We'll see how long this goes on. We should check back in a week or so and see how we're how we're feeling then about the upcoming apocalyptic scenario that we're finding ourselves in.
Whole consumption thing is an interesting point, because we're seeing there were these reports, weren't there, in Italy of dolphins apparently appearing in the waters again where they hadn't been seen in ages, and wild boar even going into villages and stuff like that. So it's almost like, because of this time of less productivity in factories and stuff like that, or in industries in general, suddenly we're seeing nature start to sort of maybe flourish again in some ways, or take back its place a bit.
Yeah, China as well.
China as well. Oh yeah, because of you could finally see the sky again.
Yeah, wow. That's so wild.
Mind-blowing.
Birds for the first time as well in I think, a very long time.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
maybe
hopefully we will change our consumer habits to sort of to be more sustainable and take what we have. What's the word? Not take
For granted.
constant access to everything for granted.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It could be that once it's back to normal again, it'll all be forgotten about too. But it would be really great if people like realigned their priorities a bit. But yeah, I don't know. Time will tell.
yeah, I think that's a very good place to wind it down here is that question, and it'll be interesting to listen to this conversation maybe in the future and see how things look then, because maybe things will never get back to normal as we knew it. That's we shall see. I think I see some sleepy faces, so I think I'm going to wind up the conversation here. But does anybody have some final thoughts you'd like to share? Anything that you would like to promote to all of our online viewers out there? I can say one thing, starting off just to get it rolling, is that we will be doing open mic live next Thursday, 1 week from today. So I hope to see everybody in this chat there. And who knows, maybe it'll be our biggest audience ever, because we're going to be like doing open mic Oslo to the world. So you can check that out at Open Mic Oslo on Facebook. Stay tuned for updates, as I will promote them. Does anybody else have anything they would like to promote to the world right now? Anything? Anybody?
Well, you already mentioned I'm doing a live yoga class. So you can do yoga with other people live together in all separate rooms, and it's every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 9 Oslo time. And I put out the videos on the events page called Live Yoga from Oslo, or Yoga Live from Oslo. And I'm also doing a class this weekend that's going to focus on specifically on breathing, because I think it's people are experiencing a lot of stress, and just breathing a little bit better can alleviate some of that. And on the events page, there are many different ways that you can contribute or donate, either to me specifically, or to your local yoga studio, or to an organization that you think that resonates with something you want to contribute to. So anybody's welcome to join that class.
And can you tell us where an average person on the internet could find one of your classes?
It's on Facebook, and it's called Yoga Live from Oslo, or Live Yoga from Oslo. They can also visit, I haven't put anything on my personal webpage yet, but I can do that as well. But they can find it on Facebook for sure.
All right, we'll drop your link in the description below. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in again. Thanks for sticking around this whole discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. And as I said, there should be many more roundtable discussions coming by again soon. I'd like to thank everybody who participated in today's roundtable discussion. And if you yourself are interested in joining us for a roundtable discussion, please hit us up in the comments below. Send us an email, hit us up on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook or carrier pigeon or whatever you got. Hit us up. We'd love to talk to you and have you on the show. Please see the comments, the description below for all information about yoga. And also, I think we discussed open mic here in Oslo. If anybody wants to tune in for that, it's always good to stay active and see what's going on around the rest of the world. And I truly encourage you to comment and give us your feedback about what you think about this show and all of our shows. Please like, please subscribe, please follow, all that jazz. And we can't wait to see you again next time here on Progressives Abroad. Over and out.
Bye.